Waltzing under the stars. In the quaint Scottish village of Dunloch, where the nights are illuminated by 1,000 stars and the air is filled with the scent of wild heather, two hearts destined for each other beat in time to the waltz of fate. Chapter 1. The Stranger's Arrival. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the village of Dunloch. Nestled between rolling hills and the shimmering waters of Loch Dun, the village seemed timeless, untouched by the rush of the modern world. Cobblestone streets wound their way through clusters of stone cottages, each adorned with blooming flower boxes and trailing ivy. The air was thick with the scent of wild heather and the distant call of a curlew. Fiona McGregor loved this time of day. The closing of her small bookshop, Highland Reads, signaled the end of another peaceful day in her beloved village. She meticulously rearranged a display of romance novels, her fingers trailing over the spines as if each book held a secret just for her. Fiona had always found solace in stories, the kind that transported her far beyond Dunloch's borders. Yet despite her dreams of adventure, she had never left the village. Dunloch was her home, her anchor, and she loved it with a fierce loyalty. As she locked the shop's door, a sudden gust of wind swept through the village, carrying with it the ominous promise of a storm. Fiona glanced at the darkening sky and hurried her pace, the first raindrops beginning to fall as she rounded the corner onto her street. That's when she saw him. A man, drenched from head to toe, stood in the middle of the street, looking utterly lost. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, and his clothes clung to him, evidence of his long exposure to the elements. He carried a leather satchel over one shoulder, the kind that had seen better days. Despite his bedraggled state, there was something striking about him, something that made Fiona's heart skip a beat. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice rich and warm despite the rain. "Could you possibly direct me to the nearest inn?" Fiona approached him cautiously. "The nearest inn is the Thistle and Rose just down the road, but I'm afraid they're likely full up with the storm coming in." The stranger sighed heavily, his broad shoulders sagging with defeat. "I was afraid of that. I've been walking for hours, and I'm not sure I can make it much further in this weather." Compassion flared in Fiona's chest. She couldn't, in good conscience, leave him to wander the streets in such a state. "You're welcome to come to my cottage until the storm passes," she offered. "It's just around the corner. I can make you some tea and give you a chance to dry off." The man's eyes lit up with gratitude. "You're very kind. Thank you." "Fiona," she said, extending a hand. "Alexander Fraser," he replied, shaking her hand firmly. "But please, call me Alex." The walk to her cottage was brief, but by the time they arrived, the rain had intensified, pelting down in sheets. Fiona fumbled with her keys, her hands trembling from the cold, before finally getting the door open. She ushered Alex inside, where the warmth and coziness of her home immediately enveloped them. "Please take off your wet clothes," Fiona instructed, blushing slightly as she realized how that sounded. "I mean, I'll get you something dry to wear." Alex chuckled softly. "Thank you, Fiona. I appreciate it." While Alex peeled off his soaked jacket and boots, Fiona disappeared into her bedroom to fetch some of her father's old clothes. She returned with a pair of sweatpants and a woolen sweater, items that had been stored away since his passing 2 years ago. She handed them to Alex, who accepted them with a grateful smile. "There's a bathroom down the hall where you can change," she said, gesturing towards the door. Once Alex was out of sight, Fiona busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a pot of tea. She found herself oddly flustered by the unexpected visitor, her mind racing with questions. Who was Alexander Fraser? What had brought him to Dunloch? And why did she feel this strange connection to him, a man she had just met? Alex returned, looking much more comfortable in the dry clothes. The sweater hung a bit loose on him, but it suited him in a rugged, casual way. Fiona motioned for him to sit at the kitchen table, pouring 2 cups of steaming tea. "Thank you, Fiona. Alex said, cradling the cup in his hands. You've saved me tonight. It's nothing, really, Fiona replied, waving off his gratitude. So, what brings you to Dunloch, Alex? He took a sip of his tea, his expression turning thoughtful. I'm a travel writer. I've been exploring Scotland for a new book I'm working on. Dunloch was supposed to be a brief stop, but, well, it seems I'll be here a bit longer than planned. A travel writer, Fiona echoed, her interest piqued. That sounds fascinating. What kind of places have you written about? Oh, all sorts, Alex said with a smile. From bustling cities to remote villages like this one. Each place has its own story, its own charm. And what's the story of Dunloch? Fiona asked, leaning forward, genuinely curious. I'm still discovering it, Alex admitted. But from what I've seen so far, it's a place full of history and warmth, much like its people. Fiona felt her cheeks heat at the compliment. We do our best, she said modestly. The rain continued to lash against the windows, but inside, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. Fiona and Alex talked long into the night, sharing stories and laughter. Despite the storm raging outside, a sense of calm settled over them. It was as if they had known each other for much longer than a few hours. As the clock struck midnight, Fiona realized how late it had become. You must be exhausted, she said, standing up. I'll show you to the guest room. Alex followed her up the narrow staircase to a small, cozy room at the end of the hall. The bed was covered in a thick quilt, and a window overlooked the garden, now shrouded in darkness and rain. This should do, Fiona said, turning to face Alex. If you need anything, my room is just next door. Thank you, Fiona, Alex said softly, for everything. I don't know what I would have done without your kindness tonight. Fiona smiled, feeling a strange sense of anticipation fluttering in her chest. Good night, Alex. Good night, Fiona. As she settled into her own bed, Fiona couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's arrival was more than just a coincidence. There was something about him that stirred a longing in her heart, a yearning for something more. Little did she know, this chance encounter would set in motion a chain of events that would change her life forever. The storm outside began to subside, the rain tapering off into a gentle drizzle. And as Fiona drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with visions of dark-haired strangers and waltzes under the stars. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Friendship. The storm had passed, leaving Dunloch washed in the soft glow of morning sunlight. Fiona woke to the chirping of birds and the scent of damp earth wafting through her open window. She stretched lazily, her thoughts immediately drifting to the events of the previous evening. Alexander Fraser, the charming travel writer, was now her unexpected houseguest. After dressing in her usual attire, a cozy sweater and jeans, Fiona descended the stairs to find Alex already in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. He stood by the stove, looking slightly bemused as he scrambled eggs in a pan. Good morning, Fiona greeted him, unable to suppress a smile. You're an early riser. Alex turned, offering her a sheepish grin. Good morning, Fiona. I hope you don't mind. I thought I'd try to make myself useful. I wasn't sure where you kept everything, though. Fiona chuckled, stepping in to assist. No, it's quite all right. Let me help. She reached for the cupboard, pulling out plates and cutlery. You didn't have to do this, you know. I wanted to, Alex replied, his tone sincere. It's the least I can do after you took me in last night. They worked together in comfortable silence, the morning sunlight filtering through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over them. Once the eggs were scrambled and the toast buttered, they sat down to eat, sharing a meal that felt surprisingly intimate for two people who had just met. So how did you sleep? Fiona asked, breaking the silence. Surprisingly well, Alex admitted. Your home is very cozy. It's been a while since I felt so at peace. Fiona smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. I'm glad to hear that. So what are your plans for today? Well, Alex began, I was hoping to explore the village a bit more. Maybe start gathering some material for my book. But first, I'd love to take a look at your bookshop, if that's all right. Fiona's eyes lit up with excitement. Of course! Highland Reads is my pride and joy. I'd be happy to show you around. After breakfast, they made their way to the bookshop. The streets of Dunloch were still glistening from the recent rain, and the villagers greeted Fiona with warm smiles and curious glances at Alex. Highland Reads, nestled between a bakery and a flower shop, was a charming little store with large windows displaying an array of books. As they entered, the familiar scent of paper and ink enveloped them. Fiona watched as Alex's eyes roamed the shelves, his expression one of genuine admiration. This place is wonderful, Alex said, his voice filled with awe. You can tell it's loved. Fiona beamed with pride. Thank you. It's been a labor of love. I've always believed that a good bookshop is the heart of any village. Alex nodded, his fingers tracing the spines of the books. I couldn't agree more. There's something magical about getting lost in a good book. They spent the morning wandering through the aisles, exchanging recommendations and discussing their favorite authors. Fiona found herself charmed by Alex's passion for literature and his insightful observations. It was clear that his travels had given him a unique perspective on life, one that resonated deeply with her own love for stories. As the day wore on, they decided to take a break and visit the village cafe for lunch. Over steaming cups of tea and hearty sandwiches, their conversation flowed effortlessly. Fiona learned that Alex had been traveling for the past year, documenting his experiences and searching for inspiration. His last relationship had ended abruptly, leaving him heartbroken and in need of a fresh start. I guess you could say I was running away, Alex confessed, his gaze distant. But now I'm starting to realize that maybe what I was looking for wasn't somewhere out there, but rather a place where I could feel at home. Fiona reached across the table, her hand covering his. I think we all go through that at some point. Searching for something, even if we're not entirely sure what it is. I'm glad you found your way to Dunloch. Alex's eyes softened as he looked at her, gratitude evident in his expression. Me too, Fiona. Me too. After lunch, they returned to the bookshop, where Fiona introduced Alex to the various nooks and crannies of Highland Reads. He was particularly taken with the cozy reading corner, complete with plush armchairs and a small fireplace. As the afternoon sun filtered through the windows, they settled into the armchairs with cups of tea and continued their conversation. What's your favorite book? Alex asked, genuinely curious. That's like asking a mother to choose her favorite child, Fiona laughed. But if I had to pick, I'd say Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. There's something timeless about it, and Elizabeth Bennet is such a strong, witty character. A classic choice, Alex agreed. I've always been partial to Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. There's a simplicity to it that's profoundly moving. They spent the rest of the afternoon engrossed in their discussion, sharing their favorite passages and debating the merits of various authors. Fiona found herself opening up to Alex in a way she hadn't with anyone else. His presence was comforting, his intellect stimulating, and his kindness disarming. As evening approached, the bookshop began to empty, and Fiona started preparing to close for the day. Alex offered to help, and together they tidied up, their movements synchronized as if they had been doing this for years. Once the shop was locked up, they strolled back to Fiona's cottage, the sky ablaze with the colors of the setting sun. I have to say, today has been one of the best days I've had in a long time, Alex admitted as they reached the cottage. Me too, Fiona replied, feeling a connection with Alex that she couldn't quite explain. I'm glad you're here, Alex. They settled into the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth, casting a warm glow around the room. Fiona handed Alex a glass of whiskey, and they toasted to new beginnings and unexpected friendships. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and shared stories. Alex recounted his travels with vivid detail, painting pictures of far-off places that made Fiona yearn for adventure. You have a way with words, Fiona said, genuinely impressed. You make everything sound so captivating. Alex smiled, a hint of a blush coloring his cheeks. Thank you, Fiona. That means a lot coming from you. As the night wore on, the bond between them grew stronger. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. Fiona found herself feeling more alive than she had in years, her heart light and her spirit lifted by Alex's presence. When the hour grew late, they reluctantly decided it was time to retire for the night. Fiona showed Alex to the guest room, her heart heavy with the knowledge that their time together was temporary. Good night, Alex, she said softly, lingering in the doorway. Good night, Fiona, he replied, his gaze holding hers for a moment longer than necessary. Thank you for today. I'll never forget it. As Fiona lay in bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had begun. Alex's arrival had stirred something within her, a longing for connection and a hope for something more. She knew their friendship was still new, fragile even, but it held the promise of something beautiful. And so, as the village of Dunloch slept peacefully under a blanket of stars, two hearts, once strangers, began to beat in harmony, their paths now intertwined in ways neither of them could have predicted. Chapter 3. The Village Dance. The annual village dance in Dunloch was the highlight of the summer, a celebration that brought the entire community together. Preparations began weeks in advance, with villagers decorating the town square with strings of fairy lights, colorful bunting, and bouquets of wildflowers. The anticipation was palpable, and by the day of the dance, excitement buzzed through the air like electricity. Fiona stood in front of her mirror, smoothing the fabric of her dress. It was a simple, elegant gown in a deep shade of blue that brought out the color of her eyes. She had never been one to fuss over her appearance, but tonight felt different. Tonight she wanted to feel beautiful. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Alex stood on her doorstep, looking dashing in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers. His smile was warm and genuine, and Fiona felt her heart skip a beat. Wow, Fiona, you look stunning, Alex said, his admiration clear. Fiona blushed, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you, Alex. You look quite handsome yourself. They walked to the town square together, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the village. The square was already bustling with activity. Children ran about laughing, couples strolled hand in hand, and a band was tuning their instruments on a makeshift stage. Fiona and Alex found a spot near the edge of the square where they could observe the festivities. Alex seemed completely at ease, greeting everyone with a charming smile and a friendly word. It wasn't long before he became the talk of the town, his charisma drawing people to him like moths to a flame. Your friend is quite the charmer, remarked Mrs. McLeod, one of Fiona's neighbors, as she passed by with a tray of homemade shortbread. Yes, he is, Fiona agreed, watching as Alex engaged in animated conversation with a group of villagers. He fit in so effortlessly, as if he had always been a part of their community. As the evening progressed, the band struck up a lively tune, and the dance floor filled with couples twirling and laughing. Fiona watched from the sidelines, content to observe. She had never been much of a dancer, preferring the quiet solitude of a good book to the whirlwind of social events. But Alex had other plans. He approached her with an outstretched hand and a twinkle in his eye. May I have this dance? Fiona hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. I'm not much of a dancer, she confessed. Nonsense, Alex said with a grin. Everyone can dance. Besides, I'll be with you every step of the way." Something in his eyes, a mix of confidence and encouragement, gave Fiona the courage she needed. She placed her hand in his, allowing him to lead her to the dance floor. The music changed to a slower waltz, and Alex guided her into position, his touch gentle yet firm. "Just follow my lead," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. The first few steps were tentative, but Alex's steady presence soon put Fiona at ease. As they moved in sync, the world around them seemed to fade away. The fairy lights overhead twinkled like stars, and the soft strains of the music created a bubble of magic that enveloped them. Fiona felt herself relax, her movements becoming more fluid and confident. Alex's hand on her waist was reassuring, and his eyes never left hers. It was as if they were the only two people in the world, dancing under the stars. "You're a natural," Alex murmured, his voice filled with admiration. Fiona laughed softly. "I have a good teacher." As they continued to dance, Fiona became acutely aware of their closeness. The warmth of Alex's body, the way his eyes sparkled when he looked at her, the softness of his voice, all of it stirred emotions she hadn't felt in a long time. She realized with a mix of wonder and apprehension that she was falling for him. The music swelled, and Alex twirled her gracefully, bringing her back into his arms with a flourish. Fiona's laughter mingled with the music, a sound of pure joy. For the first time in a long while, she felt free, unburdened by the past or the future, living fully in the moment. As the song came to an end, the crowd applauded, but Fiona barely heard them. She was lost in Alex's gaze, the intensity of his emotions reflecting her own. He leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear. "Thank you for the dance, Fiona." "Thank you, Alex," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The evening continued with more dancing, laughter, and shared moments. Fiona and Alex found themselves gravitating towards each other, their connection deepening with each passing hour. They danced several more times, each waltz more intimate than the last, their movements a silent conversation of growing affection. As the night drew to a close, the band played a final, slow ballad. Alex and Fiona swayed together, the music a gentle backdrop to the emotions swirling between them. The villagers around them began to disperse, but Fiona and Alex remained, lost in their own world. "Fiona," Alex said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Yes, Alex? I never expected to find something like this when I came to Dunloch. You've made me feel at home in a way I haven't felt in years." Fiona's heart swelled with emotion. "I feel the same way, Alex. You've brought something special into my life." Alex smiled, his eyes shining with sincerity. "I don't want this night to end." "Neither do I," Fiona admitted. As the last notes of the song faded into the night, Alex leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. The air between them crackled with unspoken words and possibilities. Fiona closed her eyes, savoring the moment, feeling a sense of completeness she hadn't realized she was missing. Finally, they pulled apart, their hands still intertwined. They walked back to Fiona's cottage in comfortable silence, the night filled with the gentle sounds of nature and the lingering magic of their dance. When they reached the cottage, Alex paused, turning to face Fiona. "Thank you for tonight. It was unforgettable." "It was," Fiona agreed, her voice filled with emotion. They stood there for a moment, the weight of their growing feelings hanging between them. Then, with a tender smile, Alex leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to Fiona's cheek. Her skin tingled where his lips had touched, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Good night, Fiona," he whispered. "Good night, Alex," she replied, watching as he made his way to the guest room. As Fiona prepared for bed, she couldn't stop smiling. The village dance had been more than just a celebration. It had been the beginning of something beautiful and unexpected. She fell asleep with thoughts of Alex and their magical night, her dreams filled with waltzes under the stars and the promise of what was to come. Chapter 4. Secrets Unveiled. The days following the village dance were some of the happiest Fiona had known. Her bond with Alex grew stronger with each passing moment. They spent their mornings exploring Dunloch and its surroundings, their afternoons in Highland Reeds, and their evenings sharing stories by the fire. It was as if they had always been together, their lives seamlessly intertwined. Fiona found herself thinking about Alex constantly, her feelings for him deepening in ways that both excited and frightened her. She had always been careful with her heart, wary of getting too close to someone only to be hurt. But with Alex it felt different. He made her feel alive, cherished, and hopeful. One crisp afternoon, as they wandered along the shores of Loch Dun, Alex paused, looking out over the water. The sun cast a golden glow over the loch, creating a serene and picturesque scene. "Fiona," Alex began, his voice tinged with an uncharacteristic seriousness, "there's something I need to tell you." Fiona's heart skipped a beat. She turned to him, her expression filled with concern. "What is it, Alex?" He took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers with a mix of vulnerability and determination. "Before I came here, my life was very different. I was engaged to a woman named Eleanor. We were together for several years, but things didn't work out. We had different dreams, different paths we wanted to follow. It ended badly, and I left to find myself, to start anew." Fiona listened intently, her heart aching at the pain in his voice. "I'm sorry, Alex. That must have been very difficult for you." "It was," Alex admitted. "But coming here, meeting you, has been like a breath of fresh air. I feel like I can finally move forward, leave the past behind." Fiona reached out, taking his hand in hers. "I'm glad you told me. We all have our pasts, Alex. What matters is what we do with our present and our future." Alex squeezed her hand, a look of relief washing over his face. "Thank you, Fiona. You mean more to me than you know." Their bond seemed unbreakable, a testament to their growing love and trust. But just as Fiona began to open her heart fully, a shadow from Alex's past arrived to threaten their newfound happiness. It was a crisp, clear morning when Fiona first saw her. She was arranging a new display in the bookshop when a sleek black car pulled up outside. A woman stepped out, her presence commanding and sophisticated. She was tall, with dark, glossy hair, and impeccably dressed in a tailored coat and high heels. Her eyes, sharp and searching, scanned the surroundings before settling on Highland Reeds. Fiona's heart sank as the woman entered the shop, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice smooth and confident. "I'm looking for Alexander Fraser." Fiona's mind raced, her heart pounding in her chest. "He's not here at the moment. Can I help you?" The woman's gaze was unwavering, a hint of impatience in her eyes. "I'm Eleanor. I'm sure he's mentioned me." The name hit Fiona like a punch to the gut. This was the woman Alex had spoken of, his former fiancée. She forced herself to remain composed. "Yes, he has mentioned you. What brings you to Dunloch?" Eleanor's expression softened slightly, a smile playing on her lips. "I've come to see Alex. There are things we need to discuss, things that were left unresolved." Fiona's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. She had so many questions, so many fears. "He's staying at my cottage. I can take you there." As they walked to the cottage, Fiona felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Eleanor was everything she wasn't: sophisticated, confident, and clearly still connected to Alex in ways she didn't fully understand. Doubts began to creep in, and by the time they reached the cottage, Fiona's heart was heavy with uncertainty. Alex was in the living room when they arrived, his eyes widening in shock at the sight of Eleanor. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Eleanor stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "I needed to see you, Alex. We have unfinished business. Alex glanced at Fiona, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and confusion. Fiona, can you give us a moment? Fiona nodded, her heart breaking a little as she stepped outside. She wandered aimlessly around the garden, her mind racing with thoughts of what might be happening inside. The minutes felt like hours, each one stretching her nerves thinner and thinner. Finally, the door opened, and Eleanor emerged, her expression composed. She nodded at Fiona before getting into her car and driving away. Fiona returned to the cottage, her emotions in turmoil. Alex was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. He looked up as Fiona entered, his eyes filled with regret. Fiona, I'm so sorry. I didn't know she would come here. What did she want, Alex? Fiona asked, her voice trembling. She wanted to talk about our past, to see if there was still something between us, Alex explained, his voice strained. But I told her that part of my life is over. I want to be here, with you. Fiona's heart ached with conflicting emotions. Alex, I don't know what to think. She's clearly still a part of your life. How can I be sure that you're truly ready to move on? Alex stood, crossing the room to take her hands in his. Because I know what I want, Fiona. I want to be with you. Eleanor is my past, but you are my future. Please believe me. Tears filled Fiona's eyes as she looked into his, searching for the truth. She wanted to believe him, to trust in their love, but the fear of being hurt was overwhelming. Give me some time, Alex, she whispered, pulling away. I need to think. Alex's face fell, but he nodded in understanding. Take all the time you need, Fiona. I'm not going anywhere. Fiona retreated to her room, her mind a whirlwind of doubt and hope. She knew she had to confront her fears and decide if she was willing to risk her heart for a chance at true happiness. The love she felt for Alex was real, but so were the ghosts of his past. As she lay in bed that night, Fiona stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy with indecision. She had always been cautious, guarding her heart against potential pain. But with Alex, she had felt something different, something worth fighting for. The days that followed were filled with tension and uncertainty. Fiona avoided Alex, needing space to sort through her emotions. She spent long hours in the bookshop, immersing herself in work to keep her mind occupied. Alex respected her need for distance, though it was clear he was struggling as well. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Fiona found herself wandering to the shores of Loch Dunn. The calm waters reflected the fading light, creating a serene and tranquil scene. She sat on a large rock, her thoughts drifting as she watched the ripples on the surface of the loch. Fiona's mind was a tumultuous sea of emotions. She loved Alex, but the arrival of Eleanor had stirred doubts she couldn't ignore. She feared opening her heart only to have it broken, yet she couldn't deny the depth of her feelings for him. As she sat there, lost in thought, she heard footsteps approaching. She turned to see Alex standing a few feet away, his expression a mix of hope and apprehension. May I join you? He asked softly. Fiona nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. Alex sat beside her, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Fiona began, her voice barely above a whisper. About us, and about what happened with Eleanor. Alex took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the horizon. I understand, Fiona. I wish I could erase my past, but I can't. All I can do is promise you that my future is with you. Fiona turned to him, her eyes searching his. How can I be sure, Alex? How can I know that you won't change your mind? Because I've never felt this way before, Alex said, his voice filled with conviction. What we have is real, Fiona. It's different from anything I've ever experienced. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that to you. Fiona's heart swelled with emotion, the sincerity in his words breaking through her doubts. She reached out, taking his hand in hers. I want to believe you, Alex. I want to trust in what we have. Then let's take it one day at a time, Alex suggested, his gaze steady. No pressure, no rush, just us, figuring it out together. Fiona nodded, a sense of relief washing over her. Okay, one day at a time. As they sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Fiona felt a renewed sense of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, but she knew she wanted to walk it with Alex. Their love, though tested, was strong enough to weather the storms of the past. And so, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Fiona and Alex made a silent promise to each other. They would face the challenges together, their hearts united in a bond that neither time nor distance could break. Chapter 5, A Heart's Confession. The days following Eleanor's arrival were a whirlwind of emotions for Fiona. She threw herself into the routine of running Highland Reads, finding comfort in the familiar rhythm of the bookshop. The smell of old paper and ink, the quiet hum of customers browsing, and the escape offered by the stories on the shelves provided her with a much-needed sanctuary. But even amidst the solace of her books, Fiona couldn't escape the thoughts of Alex and Eleanor. Every quiet moment was filled with doubts and questions, her mind replaying their conversations over and over. The villagers, ever observant, noticed the tension and whispered their speculations, but Fiona paid them no mind. She was lost in her own world, trying to make sense of her heart. Alex, on the other hand, was grappling with his own turmoil. He had respected Fiona's need for space, but each day that passed without her presence felt like an eternity. He wandered through Dunloch, trying to find distractions, but his mind always drifted back to Fiona. He knew he had to face his past head-on if he had any hope of a future with her. One afternoon, Alex found himself at the edge of the village, staring out at the rolling hills that had become both a refuge and a prison. The wind whipped through the heather, carrying with it the scent of earth and promise. He knew what he had to do. Eleanor was staying at the Thistle and Rose Inn, her presence a constant reminder of the life Alex had left behind. He approached the inn with a sense of determination, his mind clear and his heart resolute. Eleanor was seated in the inn's cozy parlor, a book in her hands. She looked up as Alex entered, her expression softening. "Alex," she greeted him, her voice warm. "I was wondering when you'd come to see me." Alex took a seat across from her, his gaze steady. "We need to talk, Eleanor." Eleanor closed her book, setting it aside. "I'm listening." Taking a deep breath, Alex began. "Eleanor, we had something special once, but it ended for a reason. We were different people with different dreams. I've moved on, and I need you to understand that." Eleanor's eyes searched his, a hint of sadness in their depths. "I came here because I thought maybe, just maybe, we could find what we lost." Alex shook his head gently. "What we lost was meant to stay lost. I found something new, something real with Fiona. I can't go back to what we had. I don't want to." Eleanor sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "I see. I suppose I needed to hear that from you, to truly let go." "I'm sorry if I hurt you," Alex said sincerely. "But I need to be honest with myself and with Fiona." Eleanor nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I hope you find the happiness you're looking for, Alex. Truly." With that, Alex stood and left the inn, a weight lifting from his shoulders. He knew what he had to do next. He had to make things right with Fiona, to show her that his feelings were genuine and that his past was truly behind him. Meanwhile, Fiona was in Highland Reads, reorganizing the shelves to distract herself from her thoughts. She was deep in the poetry section when the doorbell chimed. She looked up to see Alex standing in the doorway, his expression earnest. "Fiona," he said, his voice soft yet determined. "Can we talk?" Fiona's heart pounded in her chest, but she nodded, leading him to the reading corner where they had shared so many conversations. They sat down, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. "I spoke to Eleanor," Alex began, his eyes never leaving hers. "I told her that our relationship is over, that my heart belongs here, with you." Fiona's breath caught, her emotions a tumultuous mix of relief and uncertainty. "Alex, I'm scared. I'm scared of getting hurt, of letting someone in only to be left behind." Alex reached out, taking her hands in his. "I understand, Fiona. I'm scared too, but what I feel for you is real. I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I can promise that I'm committed to us, to you." Tears welled up in Fiona's eyes as she looked into his. "I want to believe you, Alex. I want to trust in what we have." "Then trust me," Alex said, his voice filled with conviction. "Let's face our fears together. Let's build something beautiful, one day at a time." Fiona's heart swelled with emotion. She could see the sincerity in Alex's eyes, feel the warmth of his hands holding hers. Taking a deep breath, she made a decision. "Okay, Alex, let's try, one day at a time." A smile broke across Alex's face, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. Fiona melted into his arms, the tension and doubts of the past few days dissipating like mist in the morning sun. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of hope and certainty. As they pulled apart, Alex cupped her face in his hands, his gaze tender. "I love you, Fiona. I've never been surer of anything in my life." Fiona's heart soared, and she smiled through her tears. "I love you too, Alex." In that moment, surrounded by the books that had always been her refuge, Fiona found a new kind of solace. It was the solace of knowing she wasn't alone, that she had someone by her side who loved her deeply and truly. And as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Fiona knew they had taken the first step towards building a future together, one filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. Chapter 6. A Journey Together. The decision to embark on a journey through the Scottish Highlands came naturally to Fiona and Alex. It was a chance to escape the familiar, to explore new horizons, and to deepen their connection away from the watchful eyes of Dunloch. With their bags packed and hearts full of anticipation, they set off on a crisp morning, the village fading into the distance as they headed north. Their first destination was Glencoe, a valley renowned for its rugged beauty and historical significance. The drive through the winding roads offered stunning views of mountains shrouded in mist, their peaks piercing the sky like ancient sentinels. Fiona and Alex marveled at the landscape, their spirits lifted by the sheer majesty of the highlands. As they arrived in Glencoe, they found a charming bed and breakfast nestled in the valley.
The owners, a kindly older couple named Angus and Moira, welcomed them with warm smiles and tales of the area's rich history.
That evening, they sat by the fireplace, sipping on whiskey as Angus recounted the legend of the massacre of Glencoe, a tale of betrayal and survival that had shaped the valley's history. Fiona listened, captivated by the story. "It's incredible how these places hold so much history," she remarked, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. Alex nodded, his hand resting on hers. "It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, life goes on. People endure, and new stories are written." The following day, they hiked through the valley, the crisp air invigorating and the scenery breathtaking. They reached a secluded spot by a stream, the water rushing over smooth stones, creating a soothing symphony. Fiona sat on a rock, her face turned towards the sun, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. Alex joined her, their fingers entwining naturally. "This place is magical," he said softly. "It feels like time stands still here." "It does," Fiona agreed. It's as if the land itself holds the memories of those who came before us. As they continued their journey, they made their way to the Isle of Skye, an island known for its dramatic landscapes and mystical allure. The drive to Skye was filled with laughter and conversation, their bond growing stronger with each passing mile. They crossed the Skye Bridge and were greeted by the sight of the Cuillin Mountains, their jagged peaks rising against the sky like a natural fortress. They stayed in a quaint cottage overlooking the sea, the sound of waves lulling them to sleep each night. During the day, they explored the island's many wonders, the fairy pools, with their crystal-clear waters cascading down rocky terraces. The Old Man of Storr, a towering rock formation shrouded in legend, and the Quiraing, a landslip that offered views so spectacular it felt like stepping into another world. One evening, as they sat on the cottage's porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Alex turned to Fiona, his expression thoughtful. "Do you believe in the old legends, Fiona? The stories of fairies and ancient warriors?" Fiona smiled, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "I think there's truth in every legend. Maybe not in the literal sense, but in the way they capture the essence of a place and its people. They remind us of the magic that exists in the world, if only we look for it." Alex nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips. "I think you're right. And maybe our own story is becoming a part of these legends, a tale of love and discovery in the heart of the Highlands." Their journey continued, taking them to the mysterious Loch Ness, where they indulged in the local lore of the elusive monster. They took a boat tour across the dark, still waters, the guide regaling them with stories of Nessie sightings and the history of the loch. Fiona and Alex leaned into each other, sharing knowing glances as they listened to the tales. As the boat glided silently through the water, Alex wrapped his arm around Fiona's shoulders, pulling her closer. "Do you think Nessie's real?" he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. Fiona smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "I think she's as real as the love stories we tell ourselves. Maybe she exists, maybe she doesn't, but the belief in her brings people together, gives them something to wonder about. That's a kind of magic in itself." Their nights by Loch Ness were spent stargazing, the clear skies offering a breathtaking view of the Milky Way. Wrapped in blankets, they lay on the grass, the cool night air filled with the sounds of nature. It was during these quiet moments that their conversations deepened, revealing their hopes, dreams, and fears. "Fiona," Alex began one night, his voice soft and contemplative, "what do you see for us in the future?" Fiona turned her gaze from the stars to his eyes, which held a vulnerability that touched her heart. "I see us continuing this journey together," she said after a moment. "Not just through the Highlands, but through life. Supporting each other, growing together, facing whatever comes our way." Alex smiled, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "I see that too, and I want that more than anything." From Loch Ness, their journey took them to the remote and mystical Glenfinnan Viaduct, famously known from the Harry Potter films. They stood together, watching a steam train cross the viaduct, the scene straight out of a storybook. It was a reminder of the magic that exists in both fiction and reality, and how their own story was becoming one of their most cherished tales. One evening, as they explored the ruins of an ancient castle, Alex stopped Fiona by a crumbling wall. The setting sun cast long shadows, giving the place an ethereal glow. Alex took Fiona's hands in his expression serious yet tender. "Fiona, there's something I need to say," he began, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling within him. "This journey has been more than just a trip through the Highlands for me. It's been a journey of rediscovery, of finding parts of myself I thought were lost, and it's all because of you." Fiona's eyes filled with tears as she listened, her heart swelling with love. "I've realized that running from my past was never the answer," Alex continued. "But facing it with you by my side has given me the strength to move forward. I love you, Fiona. I want to share my life with you, to create new memories, new stories, together." Tears spilled down Fiona's cheeks as she smiled, her heart full. "I love you too, Alex, more than I ever thought possible. This journey has shown me that love is about more than just the good times. It's about facing the challenges together, growing stronger because of them." Alex leaned in, capturing her lips in a tender kiss that spoke of promises and a future filled with love. The ruins of the castle, a symbol of enduring strength and history, seemed to bless their union, a silent witness to their heartfelt confession. Their journey continued, taking them to the remote and serene Isle of Mull, where they explored the rugged coastline and quaint villages. They hiked through verdant hills, hand in hand, discovering hidden waterfalls and secret glens. Each new place they visited, each legend they uncovered, mirrored their own story of love and resilience. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire, wrapped in each other's arms, sharing the day's adventures and dreaming about the future. They spoke of their plans, their hopes for a life together in Dunloch, and the family they wished to build. One night, as they watched the northern lights dance across the sky, Fiona turned to Alex, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I want to write about this journey," she said. "About the legends we've encountered and how they reflect our own story. I think it could be something beautiful." Alex's eyes lit up with pride and love. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Fiona. Your words have always had a way of capturing the magic in the world, and our journey is nothing short of magical." As their trip came to an end, Fiona and Alex returned to Dunloch, their hearts and minds full of the memories they had created. The village welcomed them back with open arms, and it wasn't long before life returned to its familiar rhythm. But something fundamental had changed. Fiona and Alex were no longer just two people finding their way. They were partners, united by the journey they had shared and the love they had confessed. Their bond, forged in the breathtaking landscapes of the Highlands and tempered by the challenges they had faced, was stronger than ever. Highland Reads became a place not just of solace but of inspiration, where Fiona began writing her account of their journey, interweaving the legends and myths with their own love story. Alex, too, found a renewed sense of purpose, his writing blossoming with the richness of their shared experiences. Together, they faced the future with hope and determination, knowing that whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side. Their journey through the Scottish Highlands had been more than just an adventure. It had been a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the magic that exists in the world if only we choose to see it. And so, in the heart of Dunloch, amidst the timeless beauty of the Highlands, Fiona and Alex's love story continued, a tale as enduring and enchanting as the legends that had guided them. Chapter 7. The Festival of Lights. The Festival of Lights was a cherished tradition in Dunloch, held annually to celebrate the village's history and the unity of its community. Preparations began weeks in advance, with every villager contributing to the decorations, food, and festivities. The entire town was transformed into a twinkling wonderland, with lanterns strung from trees and rooftops, casting a magical glow over the cobblestone streets. Fiona had always loved the festival, but this year it held a special significance. It marked not only the celebration of her beloved village, but also the culmination of her journey with Alex. Their relationship had grown stronger with each passing day, their bond deepening through shared experiences and heartfelt conversations. On the day of the festival, the village was abuzz with excitement. Stalls lined the main square, offering delicious homemade treats, handcrafted goods, and vibrant decorations. Children ran about with sparklers, their laughter filling the air. The anticipation was palpable, and Fiona could feel the collective joy of her community. As the sun began to set, the villagers gathered in the square for the lighting ceremony. Fiona stood with Alex at the edge of the crowd, her heart fluttering with anticipation. She wore a simple yet elegant dress, the same deep blue that Alex had admired at the village dance. Alex, standing beside her in a crisp white shirt, looked every bit the part of the dashing romantic hero. The mayor of Dunloch, a kindly old man with a twinkle in his eye, stepped up to the podium to address the crowd. Welcome, everyone, to this year's Festival of Lights. Tonight we celebrate not only our history and community, but also the love and unity that bind us together. Let us light the lanterns and fill the sky with our hopes and dreams. With that, the first lantern was lit, its warm glow spreading across the square. One by one, the villagers lit their lanterns, creating a sea of flickering lights. Fiona watched in awe, her heart swelling with emotion. She felt Alex's hand slip into hers, and she turned to see him gazing at her with a look of pure love. "Fiona," he whispered, his voice filled with tenderness. "There's something I need to say." Her breath caught in her throat as she looked into his eyes, the world around them fading into a soft blur of light and color. "What is it, Alex?" He took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "Fiona, meeting you has changed my life in ways I never imagined. You've shown me what it means to truly live, to love, and to find a home in another person. I've traveled far and wide, but I've never felt more at home than I do here with you." Tears welled up in Fiona's eyes as she listened, her heart overflowing with love. "Oh, Alex," he continued, his voice strong and clear, "I want to stay here in Dunloch with you. I want to build a life together, filled with love, laughter, and countless adventures. Fiona, will you be my home, my heart, and my forever?" With those words, Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. He opened it to reveal a delicate ring, adorned with a single sparkling sapphire, the same deep blue as her favorite dress. Fiona gasped, her hand covering her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes, Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The villagers, witnessing the heartfelt proposal, erupted into cheers and applause. As Fiona and Alex embraced, the sky above them filled with lanterns, each one carrying a wish, a hope, and a dream. The sight was breathtaking, a testament to the love and unity that defined their community. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Fiona felt a profound sense of peace and joy. She knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together, a journey filled with love, challenges, and endless possibilities. The festival continued late into the night with music, dancing, and celebrations. Fiona and Alex were at the heart of it all, surrounded by friends and neighbors who shared in their happiness. The village square, bathed in the soft glow of the lanterns, felt like a scene from a fairy tale, a perfect backdrop for their love story. As the night drew to a close, Fiona and Alex found a quiet spot at the edge of the square, away from the bustling crowd. They sat together on a bench, watching the lanterns drift slowly across the sky. "Thank you for making this night so special," Fiona said softly, resting her head on Alex's shoulder. Alex smiled, kissing the top of her head. "Thank you for being the most incredible part of my life, Fiona. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." Fiona looked up at the stars, her heart full of hope and love. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their hearts intertwined like the lanterns that floated above. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty and magic of the Festival of Lights, Fiona and Alex embraced their future with open hearts, ready to write the next chapter of their love story together. Chapter 8. Epilogue. A new chapter. A year had passed since the unforgettable night of the Festival of Lights, and Dunloch had never felt more like home to Fiona and Alex. The village, with its rolling hills and shimmering loch, had witnessed their love story unfold and now embraced the new chapter of their lives. Highland Reeds had flourished over the past year. With Alex by her side, Fiona had expanded the bookshop, adding a cozy cafe where villagers and tourists alike could enjoy a good book with a cup of freshly brewed coffee. Alex's travels had given him a wealth of stories and experiences, which he now shared through writing workshops and storytelling evenings at the shop. On this particular spring morning, the bookshop was bustling with activity. Fiona, her belly round with the promise of new life, moved gracefully between the shelves, her hand occasionally resting on her growing baby bump. She smiled as she watched Alex animatedly discuss a classic novel with a group of eager readers. His passion for literature had only deepened since he had made Dunloch his home. "Fiona, over here!" called Mrs. McLeod, waving a hand from the cafe area. "We need more scones!" "Coming right up," Fiona replied, her voice filled with warmth. She made her way to the counter where a tray of freshly baked scones awaited. The scent of butter and jam filled the air, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee. As she served Mrs. McLeod and the other customers, Fiona felt a sense of contentment wash over her. This bookshop, this community, and this life were everything she had ever dreamed of and more. And with Alex by her side, it felt like a dream come true. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the village, Fiona and Alex closed up the shop. They walked hand in hand to their cottage, the same one where their journey had begun. The cottage garden was in full bloom, with vibrant flowers and the soft hum of bees creating a serene atmosphere. Inside, they settled into their favorite spot by the fireplace. Alex placed a gentle hand on Fiona's belly, feeling the subtle movements of their unborn child. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice tender. "Happy," Fiona replied, her eyes sparkling with love. "And incredibly blessed." Alex smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. "I still can't believe we're going to be parents." "Me neither," Fiona said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "But I know we're ready for this next adventure." As the evening turned into night, the village of Dunloch prepared for another celebration, the anniversary of the Festival of Lights. Fiona and Alex made their way to the town square, where lanterns once again adorned the trees and rooftops, casting a magical glow. The villagers greeted them with warm smiles and congratulations, sharing in their joy and anticipation. The square was alive with music and laughter, a testament to the love and unity that defined Dunloch. As the night grew darker, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The first lantern was lit, its glow spreading through the crowd. One by one, the villagers lit their lanterns, sending them into the night sky, each one carrying a wish, a hope, and a dream. Fiona and Alex stood together, a lantern in their hands. They exchanged a loving glance, then released it into the sky. As they watched it float upward, Fiona felt a surge of happiness and gratitude. "Dance with me," Alex whispered, his eyes filled with love. Fiona nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. They moved to the center of the square, the music softening to a familiar waltz. Alex took her in his arms, and they began to dance, their movements fluid and graceful, just as they had a year ago. The villagers watched with smiles, the scene a perfect reflection of the love and magic that had brought Fiona and Alex together. As they danced under the stars, surrounded by the warm glow of the lanterns, they felt a profound sense of peace and joy. This was their new chapter, a life filled with love, community, and endless possibilities. Fiona knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their hearts intertwined in a bond that was unbreakable. As the last notes of the waltz played, Alex leaned in and whispered, "I love you, Fiona, forever and always." Fiona smiled, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. "I love you too, Alex, forever and always." Under the starlit sky, with the lanterns of Dunloch lighting their way, Fiona and Alex embraced their future, ready to welcome their child and all the adventures that awaited. And as they danced, they knew that their love story was only just beginning, a beautiful tale that would continue to unfold with each passing day. And so, in the heart of Dunloch, surrounded by the magic of the Festival of Lights, Fiona and Alex found their happily ever after, a love that would shine as brightly as the stars above for all the years to come.